Wow. I was not expecting there to be this many people in here, but guys, I'm gonna just react to the entire thing. This is the full 26-minute interview. I'm not sure the exact dynamic when it comes to the length. It really seemed like, and Brett Baer even said towards the end that they were yelling, the Kamala camp was, to stop the interview, cut it off, because it was not going well. I mean, I don't know, but it was a kind of a weird interview. I'm going to be reacting to the full thing right now. Obviously, a lot of people have reactions. Kamala Harris not doing very well. And then I am going to probably be live until maybe like 8 o'clock, 8:30, because I want to do a video on this, like an actual YouTube video on this. But I'll let a few more people join, and we will go ahead, and I'll be pausing it throughout. I'll try and let it flow. But I'm going to be pausing it. It's not live. This happened an hour ago at 6 o'clock, 6 to 6:30. So we're just going to go ahead with this interview, and they hit her right away on immigration.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
do you,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is
I don't have an answer.
We have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we...
Right, so let me just explain the dynamic here. The entire problem of this whole argument is what they did when they got in. I'm going to let her talk, but I just want to say, their original viewpoint going into the election in 2020 was that Trump was a racist and he didn't let enough people in. Because go look at the illegal border crossings. They're at an all-time low in 2020. Some of that was due to COVID, but also obviously Trump's policy, he ran on illegal immigration. So he brought illegal immigration even lower. And so she's referencing the policies that opened the border. People have to understand, she is talking about, this is like a border question about how you're going to secure the border. She's talking about when we got in office, meaning when her and Biden got in 2020 or 2021, all of the policies that they implemented to open the border. And we're talking about border safety. So she's referencing the policies that messed everything up in the first place. And Baer does do a good job of hitting her in a second.
We offered Congress before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes.
Fix our immigration system. Illegal immigration was at an all-time low. What did you want to fix?
Ma'am, it was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Yes, ma'am. May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority
to open the border
for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one,
you made the problem.
We have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting.
The border bill was needed because they opened the border with all of Biden's executive orders in 2021.
People of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
That was a disaster bill.
That bill and told them to kill it.
What about the 2 million illegals that were allowed in that bill?
Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that.
They were caused by your policies.
And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election. Because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Someone said he should have asked, will you accept the election results and subsequently certify your loss? And yeah, she's going to have to do that. But the dynamic here with this immigration question, they're speaking different languages. The big problem here, and you got to really hit her on this, she's talking about the border bill that supposedly Trump shot down. There's so many issues with that, but that doesn't even matter. Ask her, why was the border bill needed? You got in 2021. Illegal immigration was at an all-time low. So why is the border bill needed? Were your policies bad? Is that why it was needed? I mean, that's really a question, but they're speaking different languages because it's just a complete deflect to the border bill that they were going to do. Now they're the badasses on the border. They have to be the badasses on the border because they're obsessed with power, and that's the only way they can stay in power is by doing this fake tough charade. We're tough on immigration. Remember in 2020 when we had very low illegal immigration, they called Trump a racist for the border and said that we need to let people in. Now because independent white people say, no, we need a strong border, then now they have to start doing their little placate. Oh, I'm a badass prosecutor. Don't worry. You being a prosecutor doesn't matter. Look at what happened after that when you actually were a politician. I mean, she's extremely soft on the border. This is known.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer?
In all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride
What about the
in
illegal
saying
immigration?
that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted.
You called Trump racist for wanting a strong border. Yes, we remember.
They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because
that's the key.
There's other things to talk about, but you frequently talked to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done.
Did they get support in 2021?
These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
This was just 5 years ago, by the way. This is not that long. It just goes to show you how ridiculous this whole thing is. And I mean, she was a DEI choice for VP. I mean, she should not be the candidate right now. The Democrats don't want her as the candidate. She's forced in because of how cognitively declined Biden was. They thought they could run Biden and have the incumbent advantage. Now they're forced with her. And she was a radical leftist in 2019, according to independent models and where they track who's the far leftist person, and she was voted. I mean, she's radical left, and that's 5 years ago. And now it's this whole charade. Now I'm moderate, guys. Don't worry. I need white people in the Rust Belt to vote for me. I'm moderate now. You know, it's like, it's 5 years ago. You're radical leftist. Now you're moderate. Did you have a rebirthing or something?
Thanks.
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
Horrible
so
non-answer.
Decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted
the badass
transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel
to
the Guadalajara cartel. To people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Oh my God.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Would you
like I
endorse it?
said, I think it's he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because
You
he
got over $1
actually
billion
has no
and you can't
plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that...
Wait, why is she talking about money? She's outspending him 5-1.
As it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on
it was
plans
different,
for the
but
American
we'll
people,
move on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when
Maybe
you
20%
look
inflation.
at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy.
By the way, those same people would say in 2020 that Biden's plans would be better for the economy than Trump's, and we've got 20% inflation now.
Works that moving forward, because I do
Remember
believe
his
the
rescue-
American
his
people
great rescue
are ready
plan,
to
$2 trillion?
turn the page on the divisiveness
You're not
and
allowed to
the
drill
type
here.
of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently
God.
than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris
Turn the
administration,
page.
what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change.
I'm not prepared for this question.
But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
I gotta read this. Hey, DG, Texas gonna be an 8 to 10 point win. Current polls seem to have, like, through Houston was a Republican +2 sample. A Houston poll with Republican +2. Texas 2020 was plus 11 turnout. You think it's going to be an 8 to 10 point win? That would be great, man, in Texas.
I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority
God.
of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector,
Kissinger?
and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5
It's like they're turning the pages, but the pages are all blank. They're just turning blank pages.
years. So what are you turning the page from?
They're all blank.
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam
That
Vice
is
President, more than
turning the
70% of people.
That is about turning the
voters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track,
That was Marquette, too.
that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You-
Vice
But what kind of an answer is that? Donald Trump has been running for, I mean, but like the dynamics of this, her slogan makes no sense. Turning the page. You've been the VP for 3 years. That's just not a good slogan. It makes no sense. Just own it.
You and I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last
Divisive
decade,
rhetoric.
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff
Liz
to the
Cheney.
president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted
But why does Biden
with
hate you
someone who
then?
professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in
Biden's wife hate
personal
you?
grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
If
People
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's
if
not
it's
supposed to be. It is
I
not
know.
supposed to be a
so
cakewalk
are they misguided,
for
the
anyone.
50%?
Listen,
Are they
I'm-
stupid? What
oh
is
God,
it?
I would never say that about
they
the American
deplorables?
people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies,
he said that?
he's the one who tends to demean and belittle
they deplorables?
and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy
Yes.
within, talking about the American people. Suggesting he would turn the American military on the American
He didn't
people.
say that.
We asked that question to
Stop.
the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, That clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
He's not talking about the people.
No,
He's talking about
that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
He didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people.
He has
talked about
that.
going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy.
But notice the gaslighting. They can charge him with everything, but he's not allowed to respond and go after the people that charged him. Now he's weaponizing. I mean, that's exactly what they've done against him for the last 3.5, 4 years.
The president of the United States in the United States of America should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what
the funny thing is, he didn't even lock Hillary up. He was nice about it. Then they came after him for nothing and elevated charges.
Is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
Mark Milley should be in jail.
To the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump.
The significance
of
that.
Call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation
Room. She's going to try and argue this.
And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump.
But you lied about him for 3 years. You don't think that's bad?
George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand.
All the Republicans supporting her are warmongers. I know, it's funny, isn't it?
You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he's unfit
to China don't like him
and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact.
I love this dynamic where she's trying to be like, Mike Pence hates Trump, so he's bad. Biden hates you. He won't even campaign for you. He didn't even stay for your frickin' speech. You're the VP. And he left to vacation on Monday night. But she's like, oh my God, Mike Pence really hates Trump. Well, where was Biden when you gave your speech at the DNC? That doesn't seem too supportive.
Fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, 2 more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces.
Oh yeah, it's Iran, according to her. That's a disqualifying answer.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has...
That should be a disqualifying answer, seriously. Just in like the short-sightedness to say that is crazy.
It's American blood on their hands. Okay, this attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to
China
critics
or Russia, I thought.
Who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions
Let's
in
go back
oil
to Donald
profits.
Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates
and then
in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has
all of this money
has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and Houthis.
the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more to say,
there are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why we invited you.
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
and that's why we invited you here
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap here.
Well, I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was the interview. 80 pages, 32 days, 32. Oh my goodness. Polymarket. Looks like it's, I don't know if that was updated or not. 58 to 41. That does not seem like a future president, man. There's just too many non-answers. That was hard to watch. Yeah, that was brutal, man. I mean, what do you expect? But this is a failing campaign that needed to do something, and when you panic, you make bad decisions, and that was a bad decision going on there. That's not going to win her any votes. She just comes off as clueless. I mean, Brett Baer, yeah, he did well. I mean, I thought he was going to do well. It's just so polarizing. Everyone's like, oh, he doesn't like Trump. I mean, it's just like, I thought he was going to do well. The hour graph, I mean, I don't think it's really changed much, honestly, man. Yeah, it really hasn't changed much, to be fair. Ooh. It's not going to change anything. I think it'll probably hurt her in terms of independent voters, honestly. I mean, there's just no... They're talking different languages when they discuss immigration. I mean, her strategy is to just not admit all of the executive orders that they took away from the Trump administration that allowed the border to open. They just don't admit that. They talk about the thing that they tried to do to address the fuck up they had when they took all the executive orders away, which let all the illegals come in. And we saw the graphs where it's record numbers, legit record numbers of illegal immigrations because they took away all of the executive orders that Trump had. But she won't talk about it. She just talks about the bill that they had to try and fix their own mess up. So there's like the dynamic there is, it's like they're talking two different languages. You can't even have we're arguing about two different things. We're talking about what led to this and why the border was left wide open by your administration, and you gaslit everyone, and you said that it was racist to have good border policy, and it was racist to have the wall. There's the wall shown now in video clips for Kamala ads. They show the wall now. So it's like the immigration, it's like we're just not on the same wavelength. You just won't even admit it because they lose immigration. I mean, it's very obvious. The border was secure under Trump to the point where they called it racist, how secure it was. And now it's wide open. And independent people have clearly said they want the border secured. And so they have to do this thing where it's like the guilt trip. Oh, we tried to secure it, but Trump's a big, bad, evil guy, and he wanted it open for the campaign. Why was it open in the first place? You opened it. You opened it. Is that not bad policy? But they can't admit that. So it's like this weird game where why don't we just admit it? It's not a big deal. Just admit it. You opened the border. You fucked up. You tried fixing it. And now you've got this big problem, and no wonder you're losing immigration by 15 points. I mean, that's just, but we can't even get to that point with these people. It's just constant blame Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump. Disregard the amount of, and she even referenced it. This is how dumb she is. She even talks about when we got into office, the first thing we did was we had a border bill. Yeah, that opened the entire border up. That's the problem. Why would you reference the thing that ruined the border in the first place? And that's why we've got this huge, I mean, immigration's like the number one, the number two issue. It's because of their policies in 2021 that allowed all these illegals in. Some of them are going to become citizens. Statistics say 70% of them will vote liberal, and that's how they win the popular vote. And then they say, oh, Americans, we want to get rid of the electoral college and have the popular vote. And it's all, I mean, no wonder they win the popular vote. It's all illegals becoming citizens. And then they all vote liberal. Biden administration greenlit U.S. military using lethal force on American citizens in a DOD directive last month. Well, dude, even when she said that, it's just taken. So, yeah, like, oh, she's talking about Trump is going to use lethal force against U.S. citizens. That's not, she's taking it completely out of context on what Trump said, but that's the gaslighting. Understand, they can do everything to Trump. They can charge him with 4,000 crimes, go after him. Remember, this is the true numbers. Trump is the only felon president, the only president to be charged with a felony. Was that the worst thing any president's ever done? It's not even top 100, what they charge with Trump. But Trump gets treated differently. And then when Trump tries to fight back, remember, Trump didn't go after Hillary in 2016 when he won. They talk about the lock her up rhetoric. He didn't do anything. They actually tried to lock Trump up. So they say, oh, that's terrible rhetoric. They did what they said was bad rhetoric, which is locking up your political opponents. They tried that on Trump. They tried to silence him. It's all total bullshit. So why are you arguing about Trump's rhetoric? Lock her up. You tried to do that to Trump. And it wasn't even like, oh my God, Trump did these horrible, horrible things. They elevated misdemeanors. It's like you can't make this stuff up. But I'll probably be doing a video on this or something. If Trump loses, you'll be ashamed. I just don't see a way Trump. I don't know. You guys see that recent Gallup? The recent Gallup numbers are crazy. The recent Gallup poll is so key. It's just basic voter ID, man. Voter ID is leaning Republican. If that's true, that's got to be like a 95% chance Trump wins. The interview, well, I don't think it'll affect Polymarket mainly because he's already got a big lead. I mean, if it was 50-50, you might see it affect it more, but there's already such a massive lead baked in. So I agree, it probably won't. But I mean, let's just take the big picture here. There was no primary. They didn't want to choose her. She got picked. Well, she didn't get picked. She got thrust into it because Biden was so horrible during his debate. They wanted Biden. People say, well, they always wanted to replace Biden. Going into that debate, they were trying to get Biden across the finish line. She is not, she was one of the most unlikable VPs. Why would you want to go with her? They had to go with her. There was no choice. I mean, I guess they could have picked someone else, but then that would be an even bigger charade because then it's like you're handpicking someone. At least with the VP, there's still that semblance of, oh, see, we're just going to use the VP. It's the democratic process or whatever. If the president's unfit, the VP comes in, but it's all total crap. They did not want her. They're stuck with her, and now, I mean, this is what happens. There's really nothing. I mean, it's going to be, they're going to invest billions of dollars, and that's fine. They have to try and win. Trump's the big bad horrible person. He's the Fuhrer, and this is what it is. I mean, she's just not a good candidate, and there's no primary process. It's not like Democrats wanted her. I mean, it's just, and this is the result you get. She finally does a Fox News interview, and she just can't answer a question on immigration. To be fair, because they have no answer because of how badly they handled the border in 2021. This is the worst interview you've ever seen. Well, I mean, I think I've seen maybe a few worse interviews. It's hard to say it's the worst interview I've seen, but that first question and just a few of those points where she just sputtered and she couldn't answer questions. I mean, when you get challenged like that, I guess that's what happens. You heart my podcast? I don't have a podcast. I think you might maybe confuse me with someone else. Should have left Joe in. I think it'd be even worse with Joe, man. DG, I'm a libertarian, and I was on the fence. I am in Discord libertarian chat. Not a good night for Harris. Yeah, I mean, if you're a libertarian, I'd be shocked if libertarians voting for Harris, especially any Democrat at this point with their views on big government. The interview already happened, man. It happened at 6 o'clock. I just finished watching it. What type of voting machines are they going to use? Dominion? Harris up 6 in Battleground latest 5. What do you mean up 6? Up 6 points in what poll? I saw the Fox poll. I thought it was good for Trump. I thought it had Trump up 2 nationally. I know, I saw Kennesaw State score 5 points. Yeah, the early voting in Georgia looks really good, man. It does look very good. What happened to Joy? Yeah, there was no joy in that interview. Well, I mean, to be fair, you go in an interview like that, there's not going to be a lot of, she's going to have to try and defend herself, so. How did she get that much support? Oh, within her own party, you mean? Yeah, I just think it was when Biden endorsed her, they kind of had to fall in line. Otherwise, it would be a horrible look. Yeah, I don't think there's any way she's doing Rogan, unfortunately. God, that would have been amazing to get her on Rogan. Up 2 nationally, but they say down 6 in Battlegrounds. What does down 6 in Battlegrounds mean? In all the Battlegrounds combined? That makes no sense. That poll doesn't make any sense. There's no way Trump wins the popular vote by 2 but loses all the Battlegrounds. And also the way Fox does it, I mean, do they combine all the Battlegrounds into one poll? I mean, that's total crap. What's the Twitter reaction? Well, the reaction is going to be conservatives are going to laugh their asses off, I can tell you right now. Now the military can support law enforcement with lethal force, including drones. Why did they change that just before the election? Well, I mean, hopefully nothing happens, but who knows? Who knows what they're going to do before the election, but hopefully it is a clean election. Battleground is becoming a BS turn. Well, it's just like a swing state, but it's the way they do it. Quinnipiac has Harris up 3 in North Carolina, but down 6 in Georgia. I know. Quinnipiac's been a little bit more conservative than they were really bad in 2020. But even now, they're struggling, man. Never go against Vegas betting. Well, pretty much all of Vegas has Trump as a decent favorite at this point. Dem Twitter calling it an ambush interview. Oh my God. It's more cope. I mean, they scheduled an interview, they had it, and she got questioned on immigration, couldn't answer it. It's not surprising. She got angry during the interview, which is bad optics for Joy. Yeah, I think Joy is just a charade anyways. I mean, do people get really impacted by that? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, dude, their campaign tries to argue, well, Trump says everything is terrible. Well, yes, he's not the incumbent party. That's what always happens. If you're the challenger, you have to say the people in power. What is Trump going to say? Biden's doing an amazing job. Like, what do you think? Eric Jenkins. I was out in the Trump rally yesterday in Cobb, and it was so packed at least half the line was turned away because of the capacity. He's got Georgia in the bag. Well, yeah, that's what's been happening at pretty much all the Trump rallies, man. So many people get turned away, even during the week. I mean, yesterday, a weekday, Trump did 2 rallies in Georgia to celebrate the kickoff of the early voting, and she was mad the entire time. Well, she was out of her element. I mean, she knew it was going to be a tough interview, and that's the thing, is she doesn't know how to play that off and still be positive. And you guys are right. I mean, that's a bad look if you're trying to portray this hopeful type thing when you've got an interview like that where you're constant. I mean, she was rattled. You could tell what she was completely off of. You're in a safe environment like The View. You can smile. You can make fun of Trump. I mean, there's a way to do it if you go on Fox News, but obviously she's not very good at it when you go into a hostile environment. She can't really manipulate like that. I don't know when the next Atlas Intel poll is, man. It's got to be coming any day. If Trump wins Arizona by 3, does Kari Lake have a chance? I don't know if 3's enough. I mean, maybe 3.5, Kari Lake would have a chance. It's hard to say. I mean, there's such big margins right now when you look at the races in Arizona with Kari Lake compared to Trump. She's like polling like 7 points worse than him right now. I don't think it's going to be that drastic, but it's not good. Yeah, there are a lot of Democrats that could have handled that interview better. But she's just not good at it, man. She is not cut out for the job. Please go on Rogan. I'm going to be reacting to the Trump interview with Rogan. So that's coming out on Monday, they said. I don't know if Rogan's going to do a live stream or if it's going to be like his regular episodes. If it's like his regular episodes, then it's going to be released on Tuesday. And then I'll react to it on Tuesday. Atlas may come out October 30th. Well, that would be their last poll if they came out October 30th. Because that's right before the election. Can the GOP take the Senate seat in Montana? Oh, they're heavy favorites in Montana. Heavy favorites. What do you think about the Rasmussen polls? I think they're decent polls. It's just, you can't take them for gospel. They're just polls, you throw them in. But I think they're decent. Kamala leading 51-42 with independents. Well, that doesn't make any sense either. How the hell is Kamala leading by 9 points with independents, but Trump is winning the popular vote? Or is that just the battleground states you're talking about? When am I going to be on the Joe Rogan podcast? Dude, I mean, you got to get a little bit more popular for that, don't you? I mean, I think you can't even ask Rogan to go on. It's a major podcast. I can't just go on there. I mean, and plus, again, I think Rogan asks people to come on. You don't ask Rogan. Yeah, Ted Cruz is going to win Texas. Ted Cruz had a great debate last night. I was able to see some of it. Ted is he's a really sharp dude. Rogan could get 5 million live viewers with Trump. He got one. Yeah, I think Rogan should do it live because it's more transparent. Fox News poll is trash. Yeah, it looked real bad to me. When's the Red Eagle collab? I did do a collab with Red Eagle where I called him. It was like a month ago maybe, or maybe like 3 weeks ago. Ted Cruz crushed the debate. Yeah, Ted Cruz is a really smart dude. He's a sharp guy. You see him on the floor with the debates with other politicians. It's really impressive. 3K viewers. I had 3K viewers. That's pretty crazy if I did. You think Rogan will endorse Trump? I don't know, man. I probably not. I mean, maybe if he's really impressed by Trump, he'll probably say I'm voting for, or he might do like a lukewarm endorsement. I mean, because he endorsed RFK Jr. and then RFK Jr. endorsed Trump, so it's like you'd think he'd endorse Trump, but I don't know. Could Cruz be president? I think Cruz's time has passed for being president, man. I had 5K during the, man, Kamala's got to do more of these interviews. It was like 3.8K. Did you see Trump coin had a bit of a spike? Which one? His own coin that he released? Rogan will stay neutral for business, but isn't that bullshit? I mean, if you're already a multi-billionaire or millionaire, I should say, but Rogan's had like $220 million deals. Is it really that big of a deal? I mean, maybe he's just worried about the pushback and it's not worth it. Maybe that's it. I mean, because Rogan's like, what is he, almost 60? Maybe he's like, I don't really want, I mean, I just don't want the pushback, you know? It might be it. I think Rogers could win in Michigan. It wouldn't surprise me. I think those 3 Senate races in the Rust Belt, Republicans are going to get one of those seats at least, especially with the way Trump is looking. If Trump can win by like 2 or 3, that's going to be very key for this Senate races. Because then I think if Trump can win like Michigan by 2.5, I think Rogers can certainly win. Rogan will ask tough questions. Well, yeah, that's the thing with Harris. Harris is going to go in there and their people are going to say, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. It's going to be this long. It's going to be formatted like this. And then Rogan's not going to agree to it. And so it's never going to happen. And with Trump, I wonder the dynamic there with Rogan and Trump as well. His parents are huge libs. I know, but that really shouldn't affect the, if your parents are something, it's, especially if you're a grown adult. Did she do good in the interview? No, she did not. Rogan would make it funny. Well, if he interviewed Kamala, it would be hilarious because of how awkward it would be, just because of how polar opposite they are. I just think it would be so awkward, the dynamic between those two, trying to have an interview. God, that would be weird. I mean, she's already just awkward in general, like you saw her during that interview, and that's a professional setting. Poly market starting to increase. I know, but like, it doesn't really matter whether poly market goes up or down a point. It's it does, it's really inconsequential, up 1 or down 1. What's the Democratic cope? Well, I mean, I just reacted to this, so I don't know, but I would imagine it's, well, she just went on Fox News. Trump won't do a one-on-one interview with MSNBC or something. That's probably what it is. A lot of this is, well, Trump didn't do a 60 Minutes interview. They're probably going to hit back with Trump not doing, I mean, Trump's done stuff. Like, I mean, he just did that Bloomberg. Trump just did the Bloomberg Economic Forum or whatever it was with the hostile moderator. and she declined to do it. So I don't know, but I think it's probably like, oh, she went into a hostile environment, Trump won't do it or something. But they have to lie about all this stuff and just fabricate it, when in reality, Trump's done far more things, with people that don't like him than she has. But they're grasping at straws, because recently they've got, oh, Trump won't debate her. Well, he wanted to debate her on Fox News, but she denied it. I mean, he wanted to do 3 debates, and it is what it is. Everyone vote, yes, sir. Thanks for your 9/11 videos. No problem, man. Look up Kamala Harris. What about Kamala HQ? What are they saying? I wonder if they'll even say anything about it. Kamala HQ, that account is just crap. Oh, there it is right there. Kamala Harris interview on Fox was on. Whoa, come on. See, but it's just like, at least make it believable. At least make it believable. Placeholder, thank you, for Canadian dollars.
That was a home run, because she sent the one message that needs to be sent, which was, I will go anywhere at any time and show the courage necessary.
No, she wouldn't. She didn't go to the Fox News debate. Trump had a town hall instead of debating her because she didn't show up for Fox News. This is a lie.
To speak to every American, because that's what a real president does. The primary critique against her prior to this point was that she was not doing enough interviews. No one thought that the Fox News interview was going to go swimmingly every step of the way. Everyone knew it would be adversarial, but she showed exactly what she needed to show, which was that she is a leader ready to be president.
And now she's doing but why is she doing all the interviews? Why has she changed her strategy? Is it because she's losing? Yes. It's a grand slam. Max Rose. Wait, what is this, dude? Oh my God. It's a grand slam and he retweeted it. Brian Stelter. Wow, she was willing to do it. That's a sign of toughness and strength. Kamala Harris was energetic and certainly landed some, I don't know if I'd call her energetic.
And you went back at, you did a great job, because you asked the tough questions and you went back at her with tough questions, and she should be pleased with how she performed this evening.
Well, they're just happy she went on, so they're doing their little circle jerk for her. If you see this, are you registered to vote early? That's a good statement, man. Yeah. Really, everyone should probably vote early. I mean, it's a civic duty.
Especially when she was trying to go after Donald Trump, she was fairly effective in that to try to get her point of view across.
She was fairly effective in going after Donald Trump. She said the same exact shit she does every time, but this time she was angry. Check the Biden post-debate odds versus Kamala. What do you mean? You'll be waiting 5 hours if you go day of. Yeah, it depends what polling location you go to, but it does seem to be a mess. Behind the scenes of my interview. Oh, that's a nice little rock formation. Fox News, Trump +2, kind of a weird poll there, though.
Tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
You've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But what
But
answer
you've
is
been
that?
the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But
JD Vance. What did JD Vance say? Maybe you should consider swapping Kamala for Biden. Oh, man. JD Vance. Well, I wonder if... No, I don't think Biden would do better. What is she talking about? Yeah, I don't know. But guys, I am going to do a video on this, so I'm going to end off this live stream. I'm going to end off this live stream here. I think that Discord, the Discord link is still alive. If you guys are interested in joining the Discord, you can find it on the community tab. But I am going to end this one off. I wanted to do, I mean, listen, it was a train wreck. It is what it is. We expected it, though. They're going to try and swing it. We saw how they were swinging it. They said that, oh, she went into a hostile, territory. She's doing that because she's losing and she has to. This was not her original strategy. That's why she didn't accept the Fox News debate, even though she knew it was going to make her look bad and her campaign knew it. They didn't care. They didn't think they needed Fox News. They did not think they needed Fox News, but they realize now with all these polls, and I mean, obviously they're internal polls. Do you think LOL Superman will ever be found? Will the FBI keep? I think eventually it'll surface somewhere. %20 different on Poly Market is huge. I know it's a big lead for Trump right now. We'll have to see if it tightens at all. It might tighten. It just depends because we're getting close to the election. Didn't expect her to act like that. I know a big takeaway is that she was really angry. That's another big takeaway people are saying. I'm seeing. Do you believe in Bigfoot? The one film from, 1957? I don't know, man. Maybe there was something like that a while ago. Not anymore, though. But that was a fake video. But, have I seen the original? No, I haven't, man. I know a lot of people claim they have on the old version of YouTube. I remember the old version of YouTube. It was an app that came with your iPhone or iPod. I had an iPod. But I'll be seeing you guys. I'm going to do a video reaction to this, so that'll probably be up in an hour or so, I think.